Hey, hi. How you doing today? Welcome again to another episode of Old People's Complaint Desk. I am your host, Wayn-Yo. I was going to do neuropathy today, but for some reason what stuck in my head was the very first time I heard the word nor-op-ah-thie. I was newly married. I was in the Navy, stationed on a frigate in Hawaii. And my wife and I had off-base housing. We had an apartment. My mother was 49 years old at the time and also newly married, newer married than I was at the time of the visit. And she and her husband, Ray, came out to visit, stayed a month in the Ala Moana. Ooh, nice. And, enjoyed the sun. The first time they came over for dinner, we hosted. And come on in the house, and then following Hawaiian tradition, please remove your shoes. Well, my mom did, but Molly did, but Ray wouldn't. No, he said he had nor-op-ah-thie. He was very, very precise on the pronunciation. And he said if you took his shoes off, his feet would hurt. So that's about as far as we go, as far as what I learned about neuropathy from that point. But why? It sticks in my head. And here I am at the desk. Yep, you know the name of the desk. Alrighty, so why that sticks in my head. One day she called me up, I remembered, about 5 years, 6 years before she passed away, before dementia was set in. She lets me know that Johnny Manetti passed away. And that's not a movie star. Johnny Manetti was somebody I knew. He was her boss. He was the president of the company. She was the president's assistant. He was a self-made millionaire of common means. He started out like any schmo. His family didn't even go to college or anything, but he ended up building an electronics corporation and he started in his garage. He sold the corporation to a larger corporation so that he can establish a estate. She calls me and tells me Johnny Manetti died. Ooh, and I knew Johnny. Johnny was a nice guy. Johnny would come over, eventually somehow ended up coming over to my grandmother's house for coffee. And he liked it. He liked the family. The family thing, being a grandpa, being grandma, and an aunt or uncle comes around and all that stuff. He liked that. He felt so good about it, he wanted to do something for my grandmother. My grandmother said, no, you're not doing anything for me. You're coming over, you're a guest, you're having fun, you're part of the family, come on. She didn't want anything. He went out and bought her a brand new refrigerator anyway. That's the kind of guy he was. I liked him. I would go over when she was working before I left home. I was 20 when I left home. So before I went away to make my own life on the West Coast, I would go over there and have lunch with Tony. And he told me that he was starting to get tinnitus. He mentioned that. Again, I didn't know what tinnitus was, but guess what? Not only do I have neuropathy, I have tinnitus. So more on that later. So he was in the process of beginning that. Bobby Johnny. Fictitious names? Nah. Johnny, if you ever want to know, I now know what you were going through. Okay. So she says, gee, I would have paid your mortgage. It's like, at the time, and it was like, wow, I really would like to have my mortgage paid. Eventually, and now it doesn't matter. My mortgage is paid. I'm fortunate. Okay, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Everything is cool. But just thinking about my mother and neuropathy, but not just neuropathy, the guy who said neuropathy. All right. So she married the guy. Now, Johnny wanted to marry her. Johnny wanted to marry her. She didn't want to marry him. She didn't love him. So she married Ray. Ray came from the old neighborhood. His father handed him a business. He shrunk it a little bit, but he was still good. All right. And these were the days. My mother was raised in society where if you were a woman and you didn't have a husband, you couldn't have a credit card. The only thing that she had to her name was, that she thought, was her jewelry and how well someone could take care of her. Now, before I joined the Navy, I kind of broke up a relationship that she was in with this guy she was just hanging around with for a bunch of years. He wasn't doing anything. He lived at his mom's house or something, you know, lived in the basement. I don't know. Something like that. And it's like, hey, Mom, for Christ's sakes. You know, you're over 40. I mean, I'm 20, I don't know, 20 what? And I understand that this is stupid. You're not getting anywhere. You're getting older. She rebelled at that. Johnny wanted to marry her. Nope, ain't marrying Johnny. Don't love him. Went and found Ray. Ray from the old neighborhood who had a small business, who had cash coming in. Ray was like her. Ray was a very large guy, keeping personal feelings and thoughts about it out. Is this therapy? I don't know. He really wasn't much of a catch, and you know what? Molly didn't love Ray either. Just Molly needed to do something because she was getting old and feeling it, almost 50. She was used to the finer things in life, good society, you know, good things here, good things there, doing some traveling, going to Florida, and was getting afraid, so she jumped into a marriage. And she didn't love the guy, but it was comfortable. It was nice. Well, it turns out the guy ends up having a stroke. And for the last 13 years of the marriage, she took care of him. And they got a hospital bed, put him in the bedroom. She took care of him. She moved in the guest room with a hired hand, a hired home care person for maybe 20, 30 hours a week. And that was it. For the last 13, now this guy needed a crane to get out of bed into a wheelchair. And the only words he can say was da-da and doo-doo. And I have a 2.5-year-old that says, no, I think the 1-year-old is starting off da-da and doo-doo, all right? So you got an idea where the brain was. And his left side was paralyzed. If I mention that, I'll mention it again. So very difficult. Anybody ever do home care for a paralyzed spouse who's got a hospital bed? She did it for 13 years. 13 years. Life in Florida ended. She sold the big house on 5 acres, moved into a tiny house, easy to maintain, in a senior citizen neighborhood. And there she sat. So basically the last, and right after that, it was about a year, we realized she had dementia, and a few years later, she went on her way. So you could say the last 13 years of her lucid life went for sitting in a freaking bedroom taking care of this guy who was a jerk. Or doing that monotonous work for 13 years at her age with nothing to look forward to or do or nothing for the brain. Helped her get dementia. Now his family, well, you know, Ray promised $100,000 life insurance on Mom for the heirs, okay? Because there was something. She had her jewelry. It was all hers. He could let her keep it, and she can have more, and the family would help and give her a stipend while she's taking care of him. He didn't know he needed to be taken care of, but I have your patriarch in this room, and I have only Social Security. I need some income to maintain him, and got virtually nothing. He promised that there would be $500, if he ever passed away, she would get $500 a week for life. Didn't get a cent. Nope. They squeezed the heck out of her like she was the hired help. And by George, that's what she was, the hired help. But you know what? Somehow, I think Mom ended up getting herself there on some strange, macabre purpose. So, if your parent calls you and says, I apologize to you, you would have gotten an $8 million inheritance, You'd have liked it. But you know what happened to the $8 million? Johnny moved to Pennsylvania. He was in his 80s or so. He had someone take care of him from Eastern. She was an Eastern European. Her niece came in, who was in her 30s, married Johnny. Johnny passed away after about a year and a half. And the niece took all the money and her aunt and moved to live with her boyfriend in Montana. Pretty strange, isn't it? Hey, I don't care about how it affected me. It did. You know what really I care about? How it affected me? I had no relationship with my mother. I could have had a relationship with my mother if she married Johnny, because Johnny was nice. I would have gone to visit. I would have had talks. I would have called him up, enjoyed our conversation and the good times. Instead, she married a jerk. And I don't want nothing to do with him. So, no relationship. You say, maybe I should have had a relationship anyway. She needed it. She needed it. She's an adult. Okay? I was on my own. She's on her own. No relationship as far as, oh, your mortgage could have paid off. Like I said, it's paid off. I'm happy. I'm content. Everything had to be the way it is for me to be here, and this is where I want to be, right in front of this camera. Keep me here. Like, subscribe, share this. I'm opening up a Facebook page to help the community, and I'm going to get a website with a WordPress blog on it to start the community. These should roll out about the same time the premiere of all these videos roll out. Until then, I'm popping them out as fast as I can, doing the back work in my spare time. So share it, tell your friends, and join, subscribe. Thanks a lot. The disclaimer comes next. Take a listen to it, and then you'll get a recommendation for the next 2 videos. All right. Thank you very much. I do appreciate you listening to me. And I must say, telling it in a manner where I felt no angst or frustration or anger and all that, it was pretty good. Thank you. Thank you for being there to let me do this. It feels good. I hope in some manner or form you can feel good in the same way. All right? Thank you. See you later. Whoopsie. See you later now when I push the button. Hi, this is Wayn-Yo with a disclaimer. The information that I'm providing is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, and treatment, nor as a substitute for professional mental health care, or as a substitute for professional estate planning, or financial planning, or accounting and tax preparation. All right? Seek a professional on all these regards. Listen to what I have to say as my experiences. I freely offer them for you, and you then have your experiences. But please, may they be guided by competent professional help. And if you can't afford professional help, like many people our age, I will be doing what I can to bring to the table the desk, the complaint desk, some information on resources for our people. And by our people, I mean anyone in this world who is a septuagenarian. Okay? I'll see you later.